Hello there and welcome to September's episode of Digging Up Positivity. This month we have a lot of charity and animation, and our featurette is a coyote that really made her mark on the community. It took a bit, but Confuzzled released their final numbers. They raised an astounding $33,703.15 for the Secret World Wildlife Rescue. An impressive amount, especially since this is an online convention. On the other side of the pond, we had MegaPlex joining the row of online conventions, where 571 online visitors contributed to a total of $10,079.37 for the Care Foundation, an amount most welcome to them in these harsh times. Besides online conventions, we also see other initiatives in our community for our four-legged friends, like the Furry Fund. This month's charity was Little Angels Service Dogs, and so far they have raised $123 for a place where every dollar counts. Little Angels dedicates themselves to provide service dogs or emotional support dogs for people with disabilities. Recently I got some review copies of some wonderful pins from Torben Pins Arts and Prints. I got Torben on Discord right here, and well, we're here. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
So, I run Art and Prints. It's a company that was founded in the Brony fandom, and we're moving to the Furry fandom now. We've been at a few conventions, and now we're doing a pin project.
That's really awesome. And pins are quite a rage out there. Yours certainly look lovely, especially the unicorn with the little effects. How did you get these designs?
So we were looking at different artists for the pin project, and we needed ones that absolutely stood out, that were really, really cool looking. So we hired the artists, went through different ideas of what type of pins we could do. We saw the pins with sweets were quite popular in the internet, so we thought of something similar to that, so we went with drinks.
Oh, cool. The drinks and the food, it's definitely lovely with the donut and the coffee. It's like a perfect breakfast with lovely critters. But what does set these pins apart from the rest?
The quality, the effects, and the absolute adorableness of the characters, their backstory highlighted in the Kickstarter, and so much thought and story that was put into them.
Oh, cool. Now, of course, for these prints, the big question is, where can we reach you?
Definitely over the Kickstarter, over DeviantArt, over Twitter.
Thank you very much for visiting the show.
You're welcome.
The Twitter team of the Orlando International Airport decided to have a little bit of fun on the internet and started to upload photos of various airplane tails with a little twist. One of those photos was with PoolToy Wolf, and he sure looks amazing on a plane. Who knows what the future might bring? Furry airlines? 200 years ago, the Lynx went extinct in Belgium, but there were sightings of this big fuzzy cat in the last years, but nobody could take a picture of this elusive feline. But that has recently changed. A volunteer of a local nature organization managed to get a picture of the ghost of the forest. That's how the lynx is known by the local population. Swiss, German and French experts have looked at the photo and verified its authenticity. This lynx is fully wild, in good health and not part of the repopulation projects that are currently going on, since those are wearing little transmitters. 4 years after its release, the Zootopia fandom is still going strong. The many groups on social media and various art archives are still very active. artwork flying around, and rumors of Zootopia 2 are numerous and making the fandom buzz with excitement. And Disneyland Shanghai has begun with the construction of Zootopia Land. Not much is known about it besides the artwork released earlier this month on D23. I'm sure excited. On a regular basis I see Yakko's Nations of the World from Animaniacs being parodied, and Aitrus Otter has done one about Furries of the World.
Pineapple Pocari, Renegade Roo.
I could never talk that fast, but then again, squeaking otters are much faster talkers than meerkats. Speaking of the Animaniacs, although some of the many references become a bit dated, the humor itself is priceless, such as the lovely rehashes by Slappy the Squirrel or the next plan to take over the world by Pinky and the Brain. I was a bit skeptic when I heard they were going to reboot it, especially when Minerva Mink did not make it into the new version. However, they released a sneak peek showing they have gotten the old crew back together. I am truly hyped. I just wonder though, will they be able to pull the same tricks they've done in the past with all those innuendos and adult jokes? Then again, not cable TV.
Begone, pests, and give me the bird!
We'd love to really, but the Fox censors won't allow it.
Animaniacs will premiere on Hulu on November 20th. Animation is difficult, even more so really fluid dynamic animation. The YouTube channel AimKit seems to have nailed this. A lovely balance between simple designs and really fluid animation. This month AIM released a fan animation from the song Soft Fuzzy Man by Lemon Demon. It's a catchy tune and the animation really matches, and I can't stop watching the clip.
My boy, this piece is what all true warriors strive for.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
Oh boy. This animation of the CDI game of Zelda will never stop haunting me. Known for its quality, it has been the subject of ridicule ever since it was released on the ill-fated Philips CDI player. But now a group of animators came together and decided to redo the animations in their style, and it's really a fun watch. It made me giggle more than I care to admit. My boy. Speaking of returns, one of the icons of animation, Don Bluth, is returning. While undoubtedly already have left his staple on animation history with household names such as Fievel, Anastasia, Titan After Earth and Dragon's Lair, he never got that lucky when it comes down to studios. Even when he was finally about to catch a break, things did go south. But even though he is now 83 years old, he announced he is going to take another shot with Studio Bluth. One of his first projects will be Bluth's Fables, and I wish him the best of luck. I adore his work, and the studio will be devoted to classical 2D animations. If you want to have a little idea what it's like to behind the scenes in Studio Bluth, Lavalle has made a series of YouTube streams where he shows techniques and shares anecdotes of his experience with Don Bluth. First of all, welcome to Digging Up Positivity and thank you for joining us in this featurette. Could you tell a bit about yourself?
Sure, I'm Ash Coyote. I'm a furry YouTuber based out of the United States. I'm also a filmmaker. I make documentary films, shorts, stuff like that. You might have seen it. I released The Fandom along with my whole production team. My co-director, Ash the Editor Eagle, he's amazing, and of course my husband, Chip Fox.
That's awesome! About your documentary, we'll come back to that in a moment, because my first question to you is, how did you end up in the fandom?
Oh, well, that is an interesting question. So, furry is kind of a funny thing for me. I always loved anthro characters. I think a lot of furries say that, like they always had this love of anthropomorphic characters in film and in media. But ultimately, there always is that kind of point where you're like, wait a second, furry's a thing. There's a label for it. And for me, that kind of happened in high school. I had a friend who was like super into like anime and stuff, but she would always draw these animal people. and I remember her drawing this this character. It was like a who was that? That was it was one of the characters from Stargate, but as a furry. You ready for a nerdy moment? I was in anime club in high school, and this all takes place in anime club, so woo! But yeah, she's drawing this character from Stargate down on the whiteboard, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I ask her, well, what do you call this kind of art? And she's like, oh, they're furries. And so, you know, like, of course, later on, I go online, I search up furry, and furry's a thing, and I'm like, cool. I think I'm a furry. And that would have been, I want to say, like 2005, 2006 is when I actually had a name for it. But, like, I've liked anthro characters since I was, like, 5.
You are actually the first furry that I met that got into the fandom through Stargate. I love that movie. I did not follow the series that much, but a friend of mine, Panriel, also known as Faulan, looks almost identical like one of the villains from the first movie. I think that's hilarious.
That's amazing. I know, right? I probably am the only furry that found furry because of a Stargate thing. I mean, like, it's so weird and obscure. Like, I'm trying to remember the name. It was the doctor character, the one with the glasses. He was kind of like the nerdy one of the group, but she had this huge crush on him, and so she'd always draw him as a furry. I don't know.
Still, I find it rather unique that you got into the fandom through Stargate. Usually you get the Lion King or Robin Hood out there, but here you are with Stargate, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's continue. You really got known in the fandom thanks to your documentary. It's often been used to introduce new people to the furry fandom, especially younger furs who show this to their parents. And with all the hype and recognition that your team have gotten, what stayed with you the most?
That's tough because we had a lot of positive responses, and we had some negative responses to the film. So it's a very complex thing for me because, you know, when we went into this, we never expected it to get as big as it did. We were kind of making a passion project. This was something that we cared about, and we saw a need kind of for the telling of the history of the fandom, as well as a need for a piece that kind of explained what furry was and is to people outside of the community. So, I mean, going into it, it was definitely like, okay, you know, like we're making this thing. And then, of course, you release it and everybody's like, whoa, what? And you get a mix of reactions and everything. And so that's always interesting. I'd say the things that stuck with me the most, one, the sheer number of individuals that have gone out of their way to reach out and say thank you. That has been overwhelming and wonderful, and I super appreciate it. The rest of the filmmaking team super appreciates it. I mean, we're all so thankful to have your support as a community. And, you know, like, I'd also like to say, too, that, you know, like, there's also that kind of other side, you know, like the side where, you know, there's definitely stuff that we could have done better on the film. Stuff where we could have, you know, represented the community a little bit better as far as, like, our diversity and whatnot. And, I mean, that also is kind of stuck with me because, you know, like, I'm trying to make sure that as we move forward, as we continue to kind of do this stuff, because, you know, like this is never meant to be a definitive piece, and this is certainly just one tiny step as we continue to move forward on this kind of community that we've chosen to cover. So, like, in regards to that, we're really trying to kind of hone in the different areas that we focus on, and, you know, like, I guess in some ways I just wanted to say, hey, you know, like, we're trying our best, and we're going to continue to try our best, and hopefully with each progressive step, we will get better and hopefully represent the community better, too.
What I can say so far is that you and your entire team are doing a great job. With all the other videos you're releasing, you truly are becoming an icon and a treasure to the fandom. That's for sure.
Oh no!
I can see you blush through your suit.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was actually thinking back about this not that long ago. So the fandom, the original series, I shot that in 3 days. And then like we released this thing and it just exploded and I was like, what? How did that happen? You know, like that was just like a funny little way in which we were trying to did you see that CNN piece about furries that came out a little while ago? The Lisa Ling?
Not that I recall. Sorry.
It was kind of like a furry documentary, but it basically took the angle and the approach of furries. We all have problems, and like, you know, like people are furries because of you know, like social anxiety or something. But we saw that, and then I was like, you know what? They miss so much of our community. I want to do like my own piece and release it on YouTube, and that's what we ultimately did. Is we went out, we shot this thing, and then we released it on YouTube, and then it explodes, and then we found a film, and then we released the film, and it's like, oh my god, what just happened?
But you really was there on the right time, hitting the right note. You had the perfect storm, and so to speak, you're now riding that wave. But you have been looking at the past. Now, how do you look at the future of this fandom? Things are evolving really fast. What do you think is going to happen?
That's tough. I mean, I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now. We've definitely seen a trend more towards like that heavily digital interaction, very similar to how the early fandom existed. You know, like the fandom in the early 90s was a lot of this, you know, like purely online interaction of individuals. So, I mean, we've definitely seen kind of like a shift because of the pandemic and because of everything that's going on. Now, whether or not that trend continues down the line, I mean, I think that a lot of that depends on how, you know, it comes down to kind of like how individual countries handle the issues that are going on today. Because I know, like, for example, with the United States, there's a lot of travel restrictions. So, you know, like a lot of the international furs that might have considered to come into the United States for a con won't be, and I mean a lot of the cons aren't going to be occurring for at least another year, so that's kind of a crazy thing to think about. I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of questions kind of up in the air about how this is changing and how everything is changing, but it's really hard to speculate.
The fandom really did make an amazing effort making the transition back to virtual. I myself have been a part of Your Ferns Online, and the team responsible for the virtual version of our hotel did an amazing job. While I don't think it will be a replacement, it's a very good substitute for the time being. What do you think of those virtual conventions?
You know, I actually kind of like them. So when I was first, you know, like introduced to, so like I'm very new to VR. I had a friend who visited not that long ago who introduced me to VR. And I gotta be honest, you know, like the experience of putting on that headset and going into virtual ferns, which was really my kind of pivotal, quintessential like VR experience, was incredible. It was like walking around in a fursuit in a, you know, like in a hotel lobby with a bunch of other people. Now, of course, there's always limitations with that. I mean, take for example the fact that I think VR chat only can support something like 40 or 50 people in a room. So it's not going to be like...
Yeah, and then it gets really laggy.
Yeah, exactly. It gets really laggy. But like, once you get past that, you know, like that little element, if you're just hanging out with your friends, so like if you're a bunch of friends kind of just pop into a lobby, yeah, it's actually very similar to hanging out at a furry convention in fursuit and just kind of exploring. And that to me is really cool. Like, that's pretty amazing. I mean, just the sheer level of detail that goes into those. I mean, like, while I haven't been to Euroferns, I feel like I've been now because, like, the hotel was so faithfully replicated in that convention space that it just feels kind of almost mind-blowing, like you're actually there.
Yeah, they truly did everything, and they even had a Roomba going around there.
I know, I saw it. I actually, in my short foray into VR, I was riding around on that Roomba.
Even in these times, we see that the fandom is growing. People see how we remain social, we support each other in these difficult times. Especially on your side of the pond, what is your recommendation for new arrivals in the fandom?
I mean, so if you're just finding the fandom right now, while everything is going on, I mean, I would say a few things. One, make the friends that you can online, because ultimately there will be a point in which we all get together again and hang out, and that way, you'll already be there. You'll already be kind of like semi-established with a friend circle and everything, because I know from personal experience, it can be hard to find local furries that are, near you, and I mean, the cool part about the fandom is you get to meet a ton of people that you never would get to meet otherwise. And the bad part about that is usually those people are from all over the world. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it certainly makes things a little bit more difficult as far as, like, trying to get together and socialize. So, make those friends and those connections now, because ultimately we will be getting back to a point where we can all hang out. And then, two, embrace kind of where the fandom is today. Look at it from the perspective of, hey, we have this chance to kind of interact online in a different way. Test the waters in different environments, like VR chat. Explore them. Let that become a part of your daily furry experience if that's what you're looking for. And, that's a good way to kind of hold over until we get back to conventions. I still can't believe that all this happened. I mean, the last convention I went to was actually the last major convention that happened, which would have been TFF. And it's kind of weird because, I mean, that was my first non-working con in about 2 years. And I find, I'm infinitely thankful that I got to experience that, for one. And beyond that, I mean, it's wild to think about, like, how fast everything has changed. And it's important to keep in mind that changes happen fast. We need to kind of keep up and keep pace with those changes. We need to stick together as a community. And we need to support each other. I know, that specifically with furries here in the US, politics are becoming a really big flashpoint in our community. We need to be supportive of all the individuals in our community. We need to stand by them, we need to support them, and we need to keep moving forward.
Oh yes, I fully agree there. Often I drop by in the healing chats to see how critters are being there for each other, especially in these times. They have someone to talk to, and it really can make a huge impact on someone their lives.
Absolutely. I mean, that makes a world of a difference for somebody, just being able to talk and express themselves. I mean, let's be real, there's a lot of furries that do have difficult, in some situations, communicating what's going on in their life, and just being able to have that point of open communication where individuals can express what's going on and let that out and decompress, that's such an important thing.
Well, that was a bit of a longer response than I expected, but it is very important to say. As for now, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, so, I mean, I think the one thing that we all need to remember is that right now, things are tough, but we all really need to stick together. No matter where we're from or who we are, it's important to stick together as a community, and just remember that community is what makes us special, and we should just, try to support every single member of it as best we can.
Perfect! Thank you very much for this wonderful interview. I will post links to your social media and your YouTube channel below.
Thank you!
Thank you so much for sticking with us till the end, which brings us to these special people, supporters of the channel through Patreon and Subscribestar. Ishnula, Els Dekkers, Tados, Kitako, Falconeo, Hanzana, Cosmic with a K and Scorechaser. We will return on October 31st, and until then, stay awesome and all the hugs.